What's up, guys? It's your host, Spartanic Arts DxD, back with another high school DxD related video. And today we have, what if Issei was betrayed and abandoned by everyone? Or what if Issei was abandoned by everyone? What would happen if after sealing the Trihexa, a change occurred in the everyday life of Issei? A change that will completely break him, a change that will put him into a new path, a change that would force the entire supernatural world to take him seriously, a change that will affect everyone and everything in the world to see his true strength. Thank you guys so much for the support. Let's try to hit 1,000 likes for this video, and if you guys want to know exactly when I upload my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button. If you guys want to see Dragon Ball edits or Dragon Ball related content, just go down in the description below and subscribe to my second channel and Palpowski. And without further ado, let's go ahead and thank our balance breakers: Rob the King, Lachlan Yates, Atomic Warlord 58, Crumbling Darkness Fear, Mr. Wolf, Ant Lewis, The Beast YT3, Shade Fox, VRWolf #2347, Jordan Patchow, Mazaku, Dr_MLG_ is the bomb, Asimodus, Grimfireshot Gamer, and Keep Saying 21, Dragonlord 003, and That Round Guy. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker, which is the highest membership tier. Also, if you guys want to know exactly when I upload, you can just join the little blue button. It's $2.99 a month. It's not that it's okay if you don't join, but I tell you guys about 2 days in advance when I upload. But this is going to be a July 4th special, so maybe everyone will know about it. So thank you so much for the support. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Chapter 1: The Change of a Dragon. Inside a huge bedroom with a king-size bed, at the centermost part of the room, right against the wall, laid a brown-haired boy. The light that escaped in between his curtains disturbed his sleep, or like he'd like to say, his nightmares. Slowly awakening from his dreams, he looked up at both of his sides. This again, huh? He said that to himself with a tired voice. He stood up from his bed, stretching his numb limbs. Now that I think about it, this room is far too big for a single person. Turning around and looking up to his bed, he found nothing. Yes, absolutely nothing. No one was here. Something at the beginning surprised him, but now it no longer did. Making his bed in an orderly way, he decided to get into the shower. Right now, he didn't want to train. He wasn't in the mood, again. Before going to the bath, he walked to the left of his bedroom and looked straight towards a dark-colored wooden door. Gathering the courage he had left, he opened it. Creak! Another room laid before, the sweet smell of a woman still fresh inside, yet no one could be seen. The room was no other than Rias Gremory's room, big and filled with high-class furniture and a lot of expensive ornaments. An elegant chandelier hung from the ceiling. The walls were painted extravagantly pinkish-reddish, and there was even a huge carpet on the floor with Gremory's symbol embedded onto it. Even the bed had its own curtain. He believed those types of beds were named canopy beds. It smelled sweet, like strawberries, and the bright sunlight illuminated the room, so everything inside could be perfectly seen. Yet the woman he loved was nowhere in sight. Not a shadow of her figure was seen. Closing the door to the room, he sighed. Not here again. Huh, how odd. With a tone filled with sarcasm, he said to himself, anger clearly present in his words. Entering his own bathroom, he went towards the shower. He slowly turned the hot water while leaning forward, letting both hands rest on the wall. He was completely alone. But one is left alone with his thoughts is going to wander around them. He remembered how much time has passed since the campaign of the evil dragon, since the sealing of Trihexa and the death of Risavim Leviathan Lucifer. 3 months flew by, yet the damage done by him and the beast still wasn't the least bit repaired. Even a few extremist groups were formed to strike against the government of the supernatural. Well, the good news were the human world did not know about it, the majority of it anyway. Something that big is just impossible to cover up. The information mentioned by the former governor of the fallen angels, Azazel. But because of the incapacity of the so-called superiors, like the former governor said, all the upper echelons decided to just inform them yet asked not to intervene. They had done far too much, and now it was their turn to do something. So, the school life of all the Gremory and Seacher groups started again, now being in their last year before college. Now was the time to prepare and find a career. But for the brown-haired boy, this was the least of his concerns. Getting out of the shower and turning off the hot water, he wanted to be in the bathtub and relax instead. Sitting inside, he let the warm water, the odor of some bath salts do their magic. His tense muscles seemed to relax a bit. But even With those things trying to relax him, one could notice, just by looking at him, that he was in pretty bad shape. Even the people that didn't know him much would be able to tell something happened to him. Something bad. His former buffed appearance was now mostly gone. His tanned, healthy skin turned into sickly pale white. His eyes lacked the luster of form he had, now resembling the ones of a corpse. Big eyebrows adorned his face, big enough for one to notice that many sleepless nights. If one looked closely enough, one would find, in different parts of his body, weird black spots. They were perfectly round and similar to Janjari, but they looked different. These spots were 8 swirling, pulsing black circles, and just looking at them, one could imagine how painful they were. Amongst them were the worst, directly the ones at his chest, being bigger, darker, and much more ominous, especially the one located at his heart. The one seemed much darker, deeper, and ever well. At least, that's what Issei thought. Touching the one located just below his heart, he said, "I don't understand what I did to deserve this. Was it because I was a pervert? Or rather, just like they said, was I a nuisance? A dumb boy that is nothing worth anything," talking to himself. With a sad tone, he stopped touching his heart. Below the black spot, he remembered how he got these holes, this corruption that destroyed his body more than he remembered them. Lost in his thoughts, he remembered they forgot about him. In the moment he went to look for them, what he saw? What an awful surprise. While black spots pulsed, making him feel scorching pain, he recalled his worst memory. Second flashback. Scene change. 2 months flew by after the war. Now the students of the 3rd year of Ko Academy graduated and went on to Ko College Division. Among them, Rias Gremory, Akano Hajime, Sonosidri, and Tsubaki Shinra. Now the 4 greatest Onesamas were out of the school and inside college. In the beginning, he was extremely happy for them. After all, how could he not be happy when your loved one graduated? The ORC was still there, but it was different without Rias and Akano. It was more work-centered, and student council was so busy that the time they had to spend with everyone was almost nothing. Issei was now walking towards a huge eradication covered with plants, flowers, moss, and with a few parts of it falling down to the ground. For all, the building gave a really creepily vibe. The road he was walking on was broken, and some of the roots of the older trees were seen in the entangled mess all over the surface of it. He walked slowly with his hands in his pockets, and looking at the ground, thinking, who was that? But before he could continue with his thoughts, he was abruptly stopped by the voice of a good friend, of a certain blonde knight. "Hey, Issei," the blonde-haired boy talked to him, with an unusual pretty boy smile, walking towards him. "You okay? You seem distracted," the blonde commented. "Nah, don't worry about it. Just thinking that we have been seeing ourselves less and less these days, since Rias and Akano-san graduated." Taken by surprise by the comment of the brown-haired boy, the knight flinched. "Yeah, but he nodded his head. Now, because of college, we see each other less and less, and because of the club activities and the unusual amount of contracts we have to do, things do seem like that." With a sad smile, he answered. Both of them talked as they walked closer to the ORC building. Soon, they went past the big, broken, creepy wooden door used to enter the building, and towards the end of the left corridor, only seeing a double wooden door at the end of their path. Creak! Opening the double door, they saw a staircase in front. Soon after, they started walking up the stairs, grabbing the rusty railing left a metal scent on their hands. Reaching the 2nd floor, they went into the second door to the right and opened it. Inside the big, old-looking room was the members of the ORC. Looking further in, the brown-haired boy saw 2 people he did not expect to see, Rias and Akano-san. He thought to himself. The room they were in was rather odd. The ceiling was really tall, and all 4 walls bookcases filled his view. On these bookcases, some strange signals were written on the surfaces, all in strange language he recognized as devil letters. The touch gave a rather uncomfortable vibe to the whole room. At the far end, towards the left, one could see the black desk with black leather chair. 4 couches red in color were accommodated at the center of the room, now filled with people. Seeing the 2 women sitting on one of the couches, he was faster than the knight for once, even speaking with a cheerful tone. "Rias! Akano!" The 2 women hurriedly turned and looked at the boy, yet something in their eyes scared him. He did not know what, but something seemed different from the way they used to look at him. "Well, hello, Issei," with a neutral and an even emotionless tone of voice, the red-haired woman talked to him. Issei was taken by surprise by her tone, being more direct and even a bit cold. "Issei-kun, it's nice to see you again. It's been a while." Yet the answer of the Yamanoto Neshido froze him up. Nothing seemingly wrong with her words, yet he could detect she was different, at least towards him. In the past, she would have run towards him and hugged him, but now she did nothing. Even the smile she was forced, as if she forced to talk to one she didn't care for. The blonde knight on his left also detected something odd, but quickly composed himself. Taking a look towards his friend, he saw him standing there, not moving, not even blinking. Quickly acting up before something happened, he spoke. "Ria-sama, how have you been? It's more than a month since we last saw you," the knight calmly asked in too professional tone. But Rias didn't perceive the tone used by the said knight. "Yes, Yuto, college has kept us quite busy, so I apologize for that. But since today we had a free day, we decided to come by and check how things were going. Right, Akano?" she answered. Meanwhile, Issei came back to himself and was about to speak up, but was stopped by the answer of Akano. "Yeah, we had some free time and wanted to check up on all of you, especially on Asia, since she is the new president, but by the looks of it, she's been doing well." "Yes, Akano-sama, Riasone-sama, all of us have been quite well, thanks for asking," the blonde-haired woman answered in a cheerful voice, while smiling. Kiba and Issei realized how she didn't notice how they were acting towards Issei. Actually, for Kiba, it seemed as if she decided to ignore what happened, something that was weird coming from her. Taking the word, Konako spoke. "Ria-sama, Akano-senpai, we've been well. Even my sister has been well, thanks to Yakuza-sama." Taking it to her about her possible job, being the ambassador of the yokai. Completely changing the subject of the talk, Konako talked about her sister. The blonde-haired boy became suspicious. It seems if nothing happened to all the women. Lies were just trying to hide it from the male. Even Zenobia and Irina, that would normally talk among themselves, were quite odd. Odd? Quite odd. "Oh. So something that happened to Kuroko-sama. I'm happy for her," soothing reply. Ravel talked from the couch as it left Konako. A certain brown-haired boy walked closer to them, with bangs covering his eyes, obscuring them. "Is that all you're here for? To check?" With a cold tone, he almost screamed. Then he widened his eyes. He realized his words were cold, so he hurriedly began talking with a soft and warm voice. "Would you not want to talk more? Tell us about your college life? Anything at all? We have time. After all, it's Friday. Tomorrow there is no school for both of us, so why not take this time to catch up?" Knowing about his mistake of talking like that, he asked with a goofy smile on his face. Kiba realized a sigh of relief, but what then came next was the surprise. With clearly a strict and cold tone, Ria spoke. "Yeah, we only came here for that, Issei." Her voice sharpened. "We are busy, and later today we have a meeting with our class to check on some projects we need to do. We also came to tell you a couple of things," dismissing the comment of Issei, the red-haired stated. Akano then spoke up. "We only came to say that in the near future we won't be able to spend as much time among ourselves. After all, right now, college is quite tough, and beginning a future president and vice president of our faculty only makes it tougher, so our senpai has been enough to guide us, so that we can take up our positions well enough." Akano spoke up. Towards no one in particular, but Issei knew it was towards him. Even the mention of that senpai was slightly different from the rest of her words, being flirty and sexual. Call it a gut feeling of Issei. "Kiba!" Rias turned around and looked straight at her knight. "We also came to tell you that because of our recent events, our contracts have been increasing. But because there are only so much we can do, and since Issei's the worst of the worst at it, I need you to take a few more contracts in this place." Kiba with a face filled with shock. "Don't worry, there won't be that many as it affects your studies. Be at ease," Ria said as he looked at him. Kiba, on the other hand, didn't expect of her to just insult Issei like that. Those words were something that he never thought would come out of her. Completely out of breath at the sudden insult of words of his best friend, he did not have the words to answer back. "I'll take your silence as an answer. Now, excuse us, but we need to leave." The two of them stood up and walked towards the exit, passing by Issei and not even looking at him. One could see the boy tremble in disbelief, but he just stood there, not saying anything at all. A couple of minutes passed, and the only ones left were Kiba and Issei, the former worried about the later, and surprised about how things turned out. He was even more shocked about how the rest of the girls do nothing, not even looking at him, like they didn't know him, as if he wasn't worth anything in their eyes. Waiting for Issei to come back to himself, he thought about the new order his master gave him. Annoying it was. It seemed he will need to make adjustments to his schedule. Training will be completely left out, at least for now, until he completes the new contracts he will get instead of Issei. Issei woke up from his stupor. Seeing no one except Kiba in the room, he tightly wrapped his left hand into a fist. Drip. blood came from his hand, slowly painting the wooden door with a few red drops. Really? Only that? 2 months without seeing each other, and that's what you say? With a tone full of sadness, muchny, anger, and fury, the brown-haired spat. What happened? Why is everyone around me changed so gosh damn much? He screamed from between his teeth, also getting a headache as the mention of the Holy One. He punched the wall and made a hole in it. It wasn't that deep, but it still proved how angry he actually was. Kiba could see that his friend was suffering. It did not surprise him. After all, the 2 whole months without speaking to any of them as if they were someone else. And when he did try to go talk to any of them, they would answer him with a, "I'm busy," or "Don't bother me," or "Get out, pervert." Sorry, but maybe next time. So he wasn't surprised by the sudden expulsion. One could guess just how bad his mental state was. He was quieter and less open than before. Proof that his did serious damage to him, even in his physical appearance, seemed different. But what did he do? He tried talking with him, but Issei just avoided the topic completely. Only sparring did Issei get all of those thoughts out of his head, and now there won't be even time for that. Kiba felt useless, truly useless. What a friend he was. Kiba knew that speaking with someone else won't cut it, and the rest of the group were always doing other things. Gasper was in the hospital with Valerie, wanting for her to recover. Azazel Sensei was always in the Gagar because of the recent past events. The girls, well, you can figure out that one. The student council was far too busy with the school and project of their king. Surzek-sama, Grafia-sama, Michael-san, Volley were all busy, either with political treaties, demand repair, or fixing their own territory, or missions to help the cause against the rebelling groups. Ross Vaisa-sensei was called back by the Norse pantheon because of something Odin-sama asked to help with. They heard from her that it was related to the barrier trapping of the Trihexa, and that she didn't even know why she would come back. She only left after saying goodbye to Issei, and after the contact was lost, no one could reach her. He assumed that was because the work was far too important to let distractions in. No contact was allowed. So in the end, there was no one. Nothing could be done. Issei turned around as fast as he could, kicking the door open and saying to himself, "I need to go where they are. I need answers from them. And that little speech won't cut it." As a soul that ran the hell, Issei was gone, leaving Kiba alone in the room. 20 minutes later. Issei ran as fast as he could, his destination, Co-College Division. However, he heard a voice inside of his head. "Partner, what happened? Why are you running? Are you being chased by the girls of your school again?" Drake talked to him mentally, tiredness present in his voice. Issei stopped running and looked at his left hand, more specifically the reverse of his palm. A green circle, shining and dull, green light was right on the reverse of his palm. Drake! He was happy. "Partner, it's good to hear from you. I did not hear you from the entire day, but the conversation needs to be postponed right now. I have something I need to do." "Okay, partner," he agreed with him. "But I will stay awake for now to see what exactly happened. Whatever you need, just talk. I'll be there," Drake said solemnly. "Thanks, pal. I'll explain things to you as soon as I'm done." Continuing his run, Issei decided to take a shortcut through the park, maybe the way he can catch up to them. Running like he just stole something, he swiftly went through the park, and after a couple of minutes of running, he finally saw the ORC a few meters up ahead. He watched how the girls said their goodbyes to Rias and Akano, something he found odd. When did they start to accompany them? Why did they do it? Simple courtesy or something else? Maybe they just have something to do here. Shaking his head and left those thoughts for another time, Issei then followed Rias and Akano inside their college. Drake was quiet, but he was thinking the same as his partner. Being a millennia old, Dragon knew something was off. Experience is the greatest teacher, and right now he felt something bad would happen to his partner, something really bad. Before Issei, a big metal gate made its appearance at the entrance door, having a rather rusty and broken look to it. Walls of bricks were at either side of the gate, covered in moss, symbolizing that they were old. Looking beyond the gate, one could see that a big building and furthermost part of the complex, and alongside it, many smaller buildings, which could be other fraternities of the college, were present. However, not a single student was outside, and thanks to that, getting in was quite easy. No problem at all, in fact. Walking past the gate, he looked at the back of the 2 women he was looking for, but instead of running as fast as he could towards them, he decided to follow them. Something about them felt weird. Continuing his chase, the 2 women expertly crossed the campus, said campus being a full patch of dirt and grass with a few statues of what he guessed to be the founder of the college and other important teachers. A lot of trees adorned the path he was walking on. He could identify with some rosewood trees thanks to their purplish flowers. Many other trees were alongside them, but he was no expert, so he couldn't decipher which species of trees they were. The smell was freshly cut grass, and dirt was something he expected about such a big campus. The buildings were styled like the ones in the old British movies. They were similarly to images I've seen of Oxford when he was looking for universities in his free time. Maybe the founder got inspired by the British architect. Who knows? Being late, around 5 p.m. on a Friday, the students were gone. Just a minority were left for whatever reason they must have. Walking towards the building, he saw the entrance. The pair of women continued their walk amongst themselves. It appeared they did not notice someone was following them, a lack of awareness on their part. Soon, they finally entered the main building that seemed to be their faculty. They crossed the main door of the faculty and walked towards a huge staircase that covered almost the whole entire room they were in. At both sides of the floor above them, balconies adorned the halls, making it seem refined and high class. Reaching the end of the stairs, they made a last left turn, and at the very bottom of the hallway, one could see the double door with a sign above. It read as student faculty in bright gold letters and encased in a woman framework with indirect details. Clearly, someone spent some money on it. Issei, still being at the end stairs, peeked his head around and saw Rias knocked on the door. Seconds later, a man made his appearance. He was tall, around 6 foot something, appearing to be in his early 20s. His physique was quite big, and he did some kind of sport. Issei's fighting experience kicking in made him a guess martial artist. He had shoulder-length blonde hair, blue eyes as clear as the sky, but something within made Issei uncomfortable. Not that he was strong, but more like that he was a threat to him. Reaching that conclusion, he continued, watching the man as he talked to Rias and Akano. Soon after some talk, the man invited them in. "Partner, something is not right. Something is just odd." Drake finally talked with a hidden worry in his voice. "Partner, I feel something terrible will happen to you. You should leave." Surprised at the sudden words of his partner, he widened his eyes and mentally answered, "Drake, what are you talking about? Nothing will happen." Although looking like that, the guy is weak. Pitifully, so maybe around low-class devil, if not lower, Issei answered in his mind, but he had to agree he felt threatened, but for a completely different reason. He did not yet understand. "I know, partner," his tone exasperated, but something about that guy makes me feel uneasy. It's as if he will leave you so terribly wounded you might not be able to do anything else in your life." His words were serious. "Just hear me out, and let's go away." "Just hear me out. Let's go away. You can ask them another time, or maybe even other girls," Drake stated, worry present in his voice, but his partner was just too stubborn. "Come on, Drake," he told the dragon. "Just a quick peek inside. I will hear that they want to talk about after that. We'll leave. Then I'll wait for them at the entrance of the school." The boy stubbornly answered, but deeply inside, he had fear. "Quick, before the door closes." "Wait, partner, don't!" Cutting the communication with the dragon, even cutting his mid-speech, he sprinted towards the door. Promoting tonight, he ran towards the door just before it closed. Sticking his finger in before it closed, he made a gap big enough for him to see, with someone inside noticing him. Quickly thanking his extremely good eyesight, he looked inside. An extremely luxurious room stood before him. Fine leather couches laid on its center. One big enough to fit 3 people and still room to spare. On each side of his biggest couch, there were 2 smaller ones. Fitting for a single person in front of it, a normal wooden table with 3 teacups filled with recently poured tea. Further in, right against the wall, there were bookcases. The sheer number of books was enough to fill an entire wall, and in front of them, there was a big leather chair accompanying the desk at the same tone as the wooden table. The ceiling had a fancy chandelier, while tall lamps with ornaments adorned the corners of the room. But it wasn't the room that was air out of his lungs. It wasn't the furniture, no. It was the ones inside the room. The image took the entire life out of him. Sitting on the biggest couch in the room were the 2 women he was looking for, but both of them were leaning their entire weight upon him before he saw. With a blush on his knees and a stupid smile on his face, both women were wrapping themselves around him like a snake about to eat their prey. Their eyes filled with happiness and enjoyment. The kind of happiness he had seen he made Akano reconcile with her father, and when he declared his love to Rias in the ORC. The dragon inside the boosted gear went wide-eyed at the scene. hoping his eyes went bad due to old age. He even went to the extremes of asking the dead God of the Bible for his eyesight to be wrong. Quickly checking how his partner was, he managed to figure out something. Disbelief appeared in his eyes. He could not find anything. Not even the slightest fragment of emotion could be seen nor felt. It's as if his body just shut down, placing the entire attention to the scene in front of his eyes. He also could not enter the mind realm of his partner, but guessing by the information obtained so far, the situation was not good. Wishing to check again, he tried once more, but nothing happened. He repeated the process over and over again, but only to find the same thing that happens. Leaving that aside, he decided to monitor his partner's body. A chill ran up his spine when he noticed his body currently was. Just how could that happen? Dre quickly screamed, but it seemed Issei was not capable of hearing him. Those things gave him his power? Damn! They even gave his life back in the beginning. How could they do such a thing? Drake quickly said to himself, surprised and even a bit scared by the horrendous reaction happening inside his partner's body. It's because of them. How could something like this happen because of those women? Anger filled the Red Dragon Emperor, his voice full of venom as he spat his conclusion. He was furious. Those disgusting women were actually doing something that horrible to his partner? But before he could tell his partner to stop watching and leave the place immediately, a voice interrupted his thoughts. Said voice was the man sitting on a couch, right in between the pair of women. Scene change, so now we're inside the room with that dude talking. Rias, Akano, I know you both like me, but please, not here. We need to check some papers as well as passing them to our professors. The man talked as he blushed. We can do this tomorrow. After all, I promised to go on a date with both of you, the man said towards the two women at both sides of him. Pride filled with his voice and a smile adorned his face. How could he not be like that? Two of the most beautiful women he had ever laid eyes on were fighting for him. Answering his question, Akano spoke up with a flirty voice. Akano hummed seductively. What are you talking about, Reggie? You want this as much as we want it, so let's take a break, Akano muttered the last words with a sensual voice that made the now-named Reggie blush even more. Gathering courage, Reggie decided to go for it, but before something could happen, an angry voice was heard right behind him. He listened to the furious voice of the woman by his side. Akano! What do you think you're doing, trying to seduce him in front of me? Angrily, Ria stepped in before he could try something. Feeling scared of her, he did not do a thing. He just sat there not moving a muscle. Then she said with a voice filled with sexuality, I will show you who is the best among us, Reggie. The woman started to move. She was slowly shoving her well-endured curves, making Reggie swallow his spit. But before he managed to achieve her goal, a voice was heard, said voice being Akano. Ria said, trying to get on without me. Sorry, but I will not let you. Throwing herself at him, she stopped the advances of the red-haired. He fell into the couch, Akano on top of him in a really easy-to-misunderstand position. Rias, so, to not fall into the ground, quickly stood up. Once seeing the image in front of her, filled with anger and fury. Akano, if you don't stop now, I will get him off you by force. You know I love him, so why do you always want me to do the same thing as I do? With a nice smile on her face, Ria screamed, anger clearly visible in her eyes. Her emotions slowly changed her eyes into a red color. Reggie felt a chill up his spine and started to sweat bullets, but Akano didn't even hesitate. What do you mean by saying I want him just because you love him? He was the first guy I met which didn't have a disgusting look in his eyes. He'd not look at me like that piece of meat. Really kind as well. Just look at him, manly, good looking, and doesn't look at me like a piece of trash would do. How could I not fall for him? With a serious tone of voice, the black-haired woman spoke up, not knowing how impactful her words in the good dense in a bad sense. Rias felt her blood boil at those words, but she knew she was right. That was also one of the many reasons why she fell in love with Reggie. Calming herself down, she looked at them clear-headed, something that was surprised at both in front of her. Ha! She let out a long breath of air, trying to calm herself down before she did something stupid. Once relaxed, she looked at both of them, especially at Akano, and said with a resolute voice, but for the brown-haired boy, it sounded sharp, merciless, and dug straight into his heart. True, the fact that he isn't a pervert or drools over the merely of our sight is truly a blessing, her voice calm and sharp. Much better than any man I ever met, that's for sure, she asserted. It's also true that he is manly, decisive, and kind. These are also a few reasons why I love him, but first and foremost is the fact that he is not dumb, naive, pervert like someone Akano and I know. Akano furrowed her brows at the remembrance of that man. Talking about Issei. Certainly. Compared to anyone else, especially to him, he truly is above all aspects, especially in the looks department. Akino's voice was flirty at the end. I have to conquer that him not being a dumb pervert or a maniac obsessed with breasts is the greatest blessing we could have. Finishing the comment of Rias, Akino spoke with a cold voice, unknowingly how much damage had her words done to someone. Also, it's nice for him to understand our intentions and not to explain them with a big sign over our heads. I'm glad you figured them out, Reggie. Truly something I want in the future for a man. I love, Rias told him. Well, let's keep going. I need a kiss if you want me to do the work. It's quite late. And the work needs to be done. Kiss me, Reggie, putting her lips forward and begged for a kiss. Answering her, he stood up on the couch and walked towards the red-haired beauty, leaving a pouty Akino on the couch. And he kissed her. Quickly stealing the lips, he kissed Rias. The sound of lips connecting was the only thing that he could hear, but the scene was something that was burned into the mind of our spectator, aka Issei Hyodo. The scene of Rias kissing that man made the brown-haired boy empty. He truly didn't understand. Why? Was it because of the words both them said about him? Was it truly because he was a fool, a pervert, naive, and dumb? His thoughts stopped when he looked back at the scene of the kiss, but this time with eyes devoid of any light, like those of a corpse. The kiss quickly became more intoxicating. Tongue started to fight the battle for dominance. After a while, the woman broke the kiss. She was in need of air, but she felt like accompanied to someone he wasn't a good that of a kisser. Getting rid of the thought, she quickly looked over him, only to be taken by surprise when Akino jumped towards him and kissed him more fervently. She was more daring than Rias, and he sure was. Quickly, breaking the kiss, Akino said, "Whew, really quite the charmer, aren't you, Reggie? To make Rias ask for a kiss is quite impressive, but I will show you who is the best kisser among us two." She leaned forward and she was searching for his lips. She kissed him for the third time, but she felt something was missing from his kiss. However, the kiss became more passionate, becoming a citizen. The look took control of the battlefield really fast, but she decided to break it before the red-haired got jealous and tried something that will make her feel even more competitive. Reggie felt extremely good. He just kissed two beauties, two of the most beautiful women he had ever seen in his life. He turned towards the clock. Sitting at his desk, 5:30 p.m. The time they spent talking and kissing was too much. Now they only had 30 minutes before their deadline. Sprinting towards his desk, he decided to start working as fast as he could, noticing that Akino and Rias looked at the clock and quickly started to fill their papers in, thinking of a certain boy, but erasing the thought. They concentrated on the task before the deadline arrives. Scene change outside the faculty. Staying outside in the room, Issei was on his knees, recapitulating the words said inside that room. He felt empty, completely empty. Just remembering those words made him sad, angered, and completely broken overall. This scene was kissed between Reggie and Rias was a sharp knife, twisting and turning inside his heart. He felt his body go weak. His vision was clouded with unsteady tears, and his sense of balance was gone. Standing up whatever strength he had left, he walked away from that place, walking down the stairs, grabbing the mental railing. He walked slowly, painful slowly, until he reached the last step of the staircase. Reaching the bottom of the staircase, he looked back up. Tears threatened to come down of his eyes, but they didn't. Soon, he lost the control of his body and fell down to his knees. He felt dizzy and started to hyperventilate. Sweat formed throughout his body, his head spinning, his body trembling as if he spasms. The scene, those words, just wouldn't go away. They kept repeating inside of his head over and over again. But suddenly he heard a voice inside his head. "Partner!" The dragon roared inside his head, getting out of his thoughts. Grateful towards the dragon, he wanted to talk to him, but his words would not leave his mouth. He heard Drake's voice again. "Partner, answer me. Shit, Issei, answer me. Show me that you can listen to me. Move your left hand up." Slowly, Issei moved his hand up. That made the dragon happy. His partner finally heard him. "Partner, hear me out. Get away from here as fast as possible. Your body is not in the right state." The dragon was anxious. "The evil pieces are acting strangely. I can no longer control them. Your power as a dragon is also reacting violently towards the energy released from the pawn pieces. We need to leave. Quickly, somewhere, peaceful and quiet." The dragon finishes. Understanding the words of his partner were right, Issei slowly stood up. Suddenly losing his balance, he went towards the wall to have some sort of support. His head became clear after what he felt as an eternity. "Shit, my body does not respond to me. I'm feeling extremely hot and sweaty. Even my chest hurts a lot. What exactly happened?" Getting him out of his thoughts, Drake answered his questions. "Partner, it's the evil pieces. They are acting strange. You can no longer control them. They are releasing a terrible aura that is clashing with your draconic power." The heat and the pain are proof of that. We need to leave, quickly. Using the magic or even boosted gear in this state will probably kill you, so start moving, commented the dragon with a serious voice. Issei made the haste and started to move his body. With every single step, he felt as his muscles were ripped apart, as if his tendons were torn, and his bones were twisted. He felt every single part of his body burn, as if they were just thrown into the burning pits of hell. Each step was a challenge. The heat he felt became more annoying. Sweat started to accumulate, dropping visibly down his cheek, towards the chin, and down to the ground. But he moved. He had only one goal, and that was to get out of here as soon as possible. Making the greatest effort he had ever made in his entire life, he reached the door of the building. He pushed it open while the hinges of the door made a loud noise. Soon after pushing the entire door open, he saw a beautiful scenery. The green grass was now painted with orange tinge because of the sunset, and the statues were shining brightly because of the sunlight. The smell of freshly cut grass was still there, but now it had a tinge of rosewood. That was thanks to the trees that were rooted in some places of the campus. He could hear the wind howling and the leaves rustling. A beautiful sight indeed. If he did not feel like shit, it would be awesome. Walking away from the building, towards the center of the campus, passing by the statues and the other facilities, he heard Drake's voice filled with encouragement. Come on, partner, you can do it! After the gate, there is a park you ran through when you first came. Let's go there. Your house is too far away to even try to go into your current state. Once in the park, I'll tell you about your body. Well, as far as I know, Drake finished. Walking past the mental gate, he saw the park. It stood like the most beautiful painting he had ever seen. A dirt road was clearly marked on the ground, and further in, it separated into many different paths. Going to different places, many trees stood proudly at what he thought at the gate, because there was nothing aside from the brick wall surrounding the man park. He thought those huge trees pointed at an entrance of the park was taller than most of the cars surrounded by the park, showing the entire block was a part of it. Walking as fast as he could, he went inwards, trying to find a bench to rest his body. Walking by different plants, flowers, trees, and even a few animals he saw here and there, he chose the right path of the dirt road and signaled him to go further in. Not knowing what was expecting him, he moved his entire body until he saw a big fountain. After what he felt like an eternity, he saw a savior, like the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, like when he first obtained the balance breaker, like when he first defeated Atrophis. The bench was firmly planted on the ground near the fountain, waiting for him to sit and finally rest. Reaching the bench, he noticed a bush behind it. It was big enough to cover his entire person. Taking a look behind it, to check if something was behind it, he sat on the bench, just some mindless paranoia. Releasing a very heavy sigh, he lay down on the bench, wiping the sweat off his face of his shirt. Trying to gain his breath back, he noticed the pain he felt earlier was now subsiding, something he was extremely grateful for. Turning his eyes to the fountain in front, he saw a beauty of the park. Birds were chirping and flying in the sky, landing on the branches and multiple trees that were rooted on the ground. With the help of the wind, the trees and its leaves were moving peacefully from one way to another, and nothing except the sound of leaves falling to the ground as well as the sound of animals was heard. Not a single human voice, car engine was heard. Really, a peaceful moment in the chaos he just experienced. Finally, after this moment of courage, he started to break down. Tears fell down his face. Blood was coming off his hands because of his nails was digging his skin. He felt the flavor of iron in his mouth, and soon he started to cough. Cough! He even spitted up a mouth of blood. Why? What did I do? Why did I deserve this? He started to mentally break down. Was it because I was a pervert? A fool? And being naive? Was it because I was kind to others? Alright, stop right there. The dragon quickly made its appearance. Do not think like that. I do not know why they did it, but I know it wasn't because you were kind. So don't think like that, Drake told him. He hated how his possessor and friend ended up like this. He wanted to help him, but he couldn't do much and just support him. Drake, why do you say that? You also heard them. You also saw them. So please tell me why. He wanted answers. Why are they doing that? That fucker! Furious, Issei asked Drake. I do not know why they did what they did, but I do know it wasn't because you were kind, he explained. Sure, you are dumb and a pervert, but that can be fixed. No one born knowing everything. No one was born perfect, he told his partner in a serious tone. About your pervertedness, you can control and dominate it. If you are not manly enough, then buff up. If you're not handsome, then change your style until you find yourself good looking. His voice was full of pride, the pride of a dragon. Everyone has an opinion. To some people, you may be like that, but to others, the ones who truly care for you, you're completely different. Don't let those words reach you. Prove them wrong with your actions. Show them what you truly are, a dragon! He roared those last words. The motivational words spoken from Drake truly did reach him. His crying stopped, swallowing the blood in his mouth. He looked up to the dark sky, seeing the clouds slowly move further and further away. He sat there on his bench for a while until the sun set. The moon rose up, the changing of the color of the sky to a darker blue. After all this time spent thinking, he found out the words of Drake were right. Even if they were with other people, to another man, he still had others. Girls that truly loved him. Enough, though, it hurt him far too much to accept it. After all, if you all gave up on life, then life will give up on you. You will only sink further and further inside the mud. Thanks, Drake. I needed that, he told his friend. You're right. Even if you think like that, so what? I have others that do not think like them. It's impossible for everyone around me to think like they do. He finally regained his confidence. The dragon could hear his voice now sounded better, but before saying anything, he felt some strong auras near them. Quickly, partner, hide! I feel multiple strong presences coming towards this plate. In your actual state, you are no match for any of them. I'll help you in hiding your aura. Now that you are in your weak state, it will be much more easier hiding you from others than if you were stronger than you. Flinching at the comment of the dragon, he hid behind his bench in the bush he earlier inspected. Slowly but surely, he heard voices. It was kind of late, around 8 p.m., so fighting someone at the time of the park was rather odd. Hearing the voices closing in, he recognized them at the top of their conversation was something that made him vomit blood behind the bush. Thankfully, they didn't hear him. Hey, Azia, what do you think of these quite beautiful, right? The boy I liked gifted them to me. Beautiful, aren't they? The voice of Irina Shodu, the childhood friend of Issei. She was happily jumping around over 100 roses of her hands, carefully ordered in a couple of bouquets. Answering instead of Azia, Zenobia talked. Huh? Why do you feel so prideful? Isn't that a sin? You'll fall, you know. Irina, besides, he gifted them to you, so why are you agreeing to becoming his girlfriend? Zenobia quickly commented. True, but Ryoto is so sweet, nice, and gentlemanly. Besides, he always spends time with me. I love him. Her voice sounded sweet and dreamy. A blush was on her cheek. She was bringing both hands towards her face, trying to cover her blush. Looking at that, Azia said, Irina, Zenobia, it's true that the gifts were beautiful, but I still don't think you should keep saying that. Both of you have boyfriends. I believe that if Ryoto-tan and Soji-san were to hear you, they will start fighting. Shyly talking, Azia gave them her own advice. Ah! Both of them screamed at the same time. They realized that her words were true. Even though they are brothers, they are extremely competitive towards each other. Last time they barely stopped him. Changing the subject of the talk, Zenobia quickly teased Azia. Oh, so Azia, what about Ken? You two have been quite lovey-dovey recently. Doesn't he help you with the club work? Also, the rumor that says two of you are holding hands and even kissing, so is it true? Skillfully, Zenobia asked Azia, getting the constant nods of the excited Irina. Well, she was just made a mess thanks to the comment. Yes, those rumors are actually true, Azia answered, with honesty despite her face red. Suddenly, the fourth figure accompanying them spoke. Azia-senpai. Daring. She was short, white-haired girl and was eating her candy, and her voice was almost a trace of emotion. In response, Azia went even redder behind Zenobia. True, Konako-chan, but you don't also have someone? If my memory isn't wrong, someone that you name in a different class? I believe his name was Hajiya. Taken by surprise, Zenobia's sudden remark, Konako widened her little eyes. How do you know about that? Stuttering in her response, Konako blushed. So the rumor was true. You did like the youngest brother of Soji and Ryu. Irina stated with a face full of surprise. So is the other rumor that Ravel is also after him true? She asked Konako again. Once you could see her face change from previous blushing, it became emotionless and sharp, and her eyes became slightly cold. That fried chicken is unfortunately also after him, but she will never win. After all, I'm at an advantage. Sooner or later, he will confess to me. I have a feeling it would be at the ending of the month. Konako replied with a full sentence filled with a lot of words, something not normal about her, showing proof that she truly liked that Hajime boy. While continuing their walk, Irina made the hidden brown boy react. So, what do you like about him, Konako-chan? She answered, a speed faster than the knights. He is no pervert. I hate perverts, especially perverted senpai. He's the worst of the worst. Real scum. Whoa, quite the rude words towards Issei-kun there, but I have to agree. I hate how he's always thinking about doing something perverted. It gives me the creeps. She also had a face full of slight disgust. Although he is really perverted and we all hate that about him, he's still kind. So you could still somehow counter it, Zenobia said, but the stares from Irina and Konako, even in the slightest glare of Azia, made her retract their words. Okay, don't look at me with those eyes. She raised both of her arms up. I mean, sure, he is really dumb and foolish to the extreme, even for me to say. Let's not mention perverted and even lustful, but his kindness was always a good trait, even though he has much more bad ones than good ones. Zenobia said, but Konako replied with a tone full of sarcasm and scorn. One good, everything else bad. That caused Ozzy and Irina to giggle and Zenobia to say, well, that's true, she said without any remorse in her face. Well, now that we have someone that's not bad to us, you could say that all of those bad memories will be gone, the blue-haired woman said, causing the rest of the girls to loudly say. True, much better than before. That comment. Issei coughed up blood again. Issei started to vomit another mouthful of blood. They soon walked away from the park, their chalets moving away from the location. Issei was still hiding behind the bush. He couldn't move. Even breathing was a hassle. The pain he felt now before came twice, even 3 times as bad. It caused him to body to convulse. The spots he felt before his chest were nothing but burning hot. Other places around his body were feeling the exact same. Blood started to come out of his mouth, choking him. He could barely hear the voice of his partner. His head filled with something else. So it was true. Everyone told lies to me. His thoughts were reaching a terrible state. The way he acted towards me, he screamed inside his head, making a purple light to start surrounding his body. Those smiles they gave to me, the light increased in density and made his eyes change to yellow to pitch black. All that so-called love, all of it was a lie! He screamed with all his force, making the light over his body as if protecting him. They always hated me. All those moments were nothing but lies. Lies! Lies! He screamed, expelling the light from his body, covering the surroundings with only purple and black particles. Afterward, a weird miasma started to come out of his body. It was like fog that covered in ground, not showing the green grass beneath him. It was black in color and little hints of red. A violet light was shining at random intervals. The feelings he now experienced were nothing but sadness, frustration, pain, agony, grief, shame, and so many more. Repeating his monologue over and over again inside his mind. The scene of Rias and Akano with that fucker. The words of Zenobia, Irinazi, and Konako. The truth about they were never there. Not even for a moment for him in the past 2 months slowly unraveled itself before his eyes. They were with someone else. Every single one of them. They lied and used them during the moments they would surely die. Just when did they needed something? Just when they needed a shield? Just for their own personal gain? The miasma surrounding him was taking the form of second skin, giving him really frightening look. A weird mark appeared on the left side of his forehead. In that moment, he felt his body being filled with power. The pain he felt before he was still there, but not as strong as before. He felt how the entire world started to change. A door opened before him. In the worst moment of his life, yet he didn't know about it. The horrible emotions he felt corrupted his mind. He suddenly lost control of himself, and the miasma that was gathering in the form of a second skin broke loose. Scene change, Ko Town. Everyone inside Ko started to feel odd. Some started to feel goosebumps all over their skin. Others couldn't breathe properly, barely having the strength to hold their own breath. Others started to swell profusely and felt cold chills all over their body. Their survival instincts were telling them to run. The further, the better. However, a huge pressure fell upon them, paralyzing them on the spot. Their faces lost all color. All of them could feel as disaster was about to happen. Some of them got lucky and just fainted after some time, but the others had to deal with this. However, everyone inside the city, whether they're supernatural or not, started to experience those symptoms, as if something terrible just happened, as if the balance and peace of the world just broken, as if chained monster just broke his bindings. The clear and beautiful night sky would turn pitch black. Not even the moon could be seen. Fog started to appear around the city, giving it a spectral look. Coldness erupted everywhere and a menacing vibe surrounding every living soul. They could feel their hearts being gripped by an invisible hand, ready to crush them within a single movement. At the same time, the same sensation was experienced by all the ones living inside Ko's college division. How could that be possible? It's halfway through summer. Even it's nighttime is ridiculous, Reggie said, letting out his breath between his hands. One could still see the frozen breath in the air slowly dissipating. He knew that this climate was not normal. Looking towards Akano and Rias, he saw the surprised and frightened, for whatever reason it may be. However, they didn't move, so he became worried. Walking towards them, he felt how they were in a place where staining the atmosphere felt many, many times worse, as if all of it was directed towards them. Their lips were pale, almost blue, with their faces drained of all color, and they were barely hanging onto their consciousness. They were shaking. Their teeth started shattering noisily. Sweat started to flow down their foreheads just like a terrible fever. They were petrified, not daring to move an inch. He tried to move closer, but he just reached 10 feet away from them, and he fell to his knees, trembling all over, breathing heavily. Whatever was the cause of this ridiculous climatic change, it didn't want to get near them. In other places around Ko, the rest of the girls, Irina, Azina, Zenobia, Ravel, and Koniko felt the exact same way Rias and Nakano did, their bodies completely froze, as if trapped in ice. But just as the feeling came nowhere, it was also gone. They were freed from the feeling of terror, like it was a bad joke from the heavens, as if they didn't even exist. But they knew it was real. However, no one else felt what they did. The symptoms they felt compared to the rest were vastly different, in fear of making whatever it is did this angry. They did not dare report it to the higher-ups. The sky cleared. The moon could be seen amongst the clouds and the mist still there. The coldness disappeared. Instead of the climate was normal, chilly summer night appeared. The sole difference was that it was much darker than before, just like midnight. They did not know what happened. It was too mysterious. Thankfully, no one got hurt. We're the ones of the bunch, but after a couple of minutes returned back to normal. But the sensation, that feeling of impending death, was something they will never forget. Scene change, back with Issei. Trying not to scream his lungs out in the middle of the park, he laid the boy on his knees. The mesma he was expulsing caused the air around him to cool and the ground to crack. Faint tremors occurred inside the park, but luckily no one was near. Suddenly he looked upwards, seeing nothing but pitch black eyes devoid of any kind of feeling in the light. Letting those bad emotions inside of him take control, he summoned the boosted gear. That surprised and scared Drake. He knew that his partner wanted to do. He thought that he had lost it after gaining a new power, but it seemed it's still there. The Juggernaut drive, with a voice that came from the grave, a voice that seemed to reach deepest depths of the eternity of hell, he chanted, "I, who am about to awaken. Partner, don't do it. They are not worthy of your sacrificing your life to ensure their destruction. Listen to me. Is this really how you want everything to end?" The dragon hurriedly said into his partner, clearly worried. At the same time, he felt anger and disgust towards those women. Yet the answer of his partner was the only other chant. "I am the heavenly dragon who has stolen the principles of domination from God. Shit, partner, listen to me. Is this what you want? Killing innocent people that did nothing wrong except being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You are better than this. Show them by destroying but your own strength that you are different from what they say," Drake says. Noticing that the next part of the chant was coming quickly as before, he knew his partner was still there. Broken beyond repair, but still there. There wasn't much time. The next part of the chant was soon heard. "I laugh at the infinite and I grieve the dream." This time, the chant more abruptly, as if it didn't want to continue. Drake took advantage of it. "Partner, Issei, please don't do it. I know you are suffering. I know you want revenge, but this is not the way." Breaking his speech, the next part of the chant became present. "I shall become the Red Dragon of Domination." Come on, Issei, come back to your senses. You're the best possessor of the boosted gear in history. The one with the greatest potential. The one I dare call a friend. Don't you dare go down the path that leaves nothing but pain and agony. He was desperate. Don't you dare leave after what we've all been through. I know you can overcome this, just like what you always have, my friend. Show me one more time how Hyodo Issei makes the impossible possible. As the words of Drake finished, the chant also stopped. The glowing and trembling of the park was now gone. The boosted gear dissipated, becoming red particles of light. Issei fell down, barely conscious. He was breathing and sweating heavily. "So, I am your friend, Drake. Good to know at least I have someone I can trust. Thanks for everything, and sorry for scaring you. We can speak about it later. I am going to faint." Being his last words the day he fell asleep. One couldn't blame him. After all, this day was just horrible. "As always, you make me worry. But I could not have asked for a better partner," he sighed in relief. "Better rest, Issei, because that darkness you showed is something that will make you even stronger. Ha ha! I cannot wait to tell you about it, young Issei." Saying those words with so much pride and arrogance, Drake decided to rest as well. If he is capable of mastering that darkness, then he would have a new heavenly dragon running around the world. Those were his thoughts. And that is the end of Chapter 1. And that is where we're going to stop for now. This story is absolutely amazing, and I'm loving it so far. Shout out to the author. He'll be linked down in the description below. But I seriously got into it, if you guys couldn't tell at the end there. I want this series to get 1,000 likes, bro. This is either going to be called What If Issei Was Abandoned. I think I'm going to go with What If Issei Was Abandoned, or at least I'm going to go with that. I might put up with like a little poll, but this is going to be like a 4th of July special. I did record this July 3rd, 6:39 p.m. It'll be coming out at 6 p.m. tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for the support. It's been absolutely amazing. Like, seriously, if you guys want to see my uploads, I mean, that was fucking crazy, dude. That story got me so hyped, bro. That speech, I started getting really into it. I was so excited, bro. Make me shed a tear. So that's the type of stuff I want to do with Dragon Ball, because I love Goku's rage scenes and Vegeta's rage scenes. Like, I can't wait to do them. But thank you so much for the support. It's been absolutely amazing. I'm glad you guys came and supported this video. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this one, because it's absolutely fucking fantastic. It's crazy. I'm sorry for cursing right there. Whenever I curse, it's in the story, just for reference. But thank you so much for the support once again. And What If Issei Was Abandoned Part 2 will come out soon if you guys really, really like this story. It took me a while to record this, but hey, 52, I don't know, it's like 50 plus minutes, whatever, maybe even an hour. But thank you so much for the support. Remember to subscribe to my second channel, my Dragon Ball channel, down in the description below. It's Palpowski. And once again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to all my balance breakers and my limit breakers as well. Just $2.99 a month, and all you guys will get to upload you guys will get to know when I upload 2 days in advance. And without further ado, Spartanic Arts DxD out.